One of the members of the minority side, who is a senior lawyer, is Mahama Ayariga, MP for Bawku Central. Honorable, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners.
It goes without saying that you know the issue of dual citizenship and MPs very well. The man who was once in the seat you're occupying now, Adamu Dramani Sakande, was jailed for a similar crime. This time around, it has gone as high as the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement which I'm not sure has ever been made before, which nullifies the election of a member of parliament and declares a seat as unoccupied. What's your initial comment having heard that decision of the court?
Well, I mean, it's very unfortunate that our colleague has had to suffer that fate. I have said severally that I believe the controlling provision is Article 94 of our Constitution, which says that subject to the provisions of this article, a person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament unless he is a citizen of Ghana. So one would assume that the time that we refer to in determining eligibility is at the point where you are being sworn in as a member of parliament. And if at the time that you are being sworn in as a member of parliament, you are a citizen of Ghana, my position is that you remain a citizen of Ghana. This case turns on the time at which the person reverted to his natural citizenship of Ghana after having revoked his assumed nationality of Canada. And at the time that the Electoral Commission accepted his nomination papers, the Canadian authorities had not yet forwarded to him his revocation of citizenship. But at the time of being sworn in as the citizen of Ghana, I think the evidence is that, sworn in as a member of parliament, the evidence is that he had attained the status of a citizen of Ghana. And that really is the issue in this case. There are those of us who advocate that the court should be more progressive in its interpretation of the Constitution and assume the determination of status to be at the point when you are being sworn in. But it seems the court has taken a position that it should be at the time that you are even filing your nomination to contest the elections. I am not in the country. I'm in Abuja attending ECOWAS Parliament. I've not had the benefit of reading the judgment, the ruling of the court. So,
in fact, there's no full judgment yet. The court would give them the full judgment will come out in June thereabout. That's what our reporter has just said. The only thing the court has done is to give the directive that the House of Parliament should act by expunging his name from the records. The full judgment, I believe, will be coming later in the coming weeks. So as much as we have is what we have shared now, and you haven't missed much. The scanty information that I've shared with you is all we have from the court.
Yeah, I've been a critic of the Supreme Court taking decisions without giving reasoning and allowing time before they give reasons. In politically charged cases, they will do the Supreme Court's image good if they took their time to give the decision and the reasoning at the same time, so that space is not allowed for all sorts of interpretations that might go to undermine the image of the court. So as it is now, it is difficult to do a proper critique of the decision without the benefit of the reasoning. I mean, there are several provisions in the Constitution that come to play. There are provisions relating to eligibility to be registered as a voter. You cannot be registered as a voter if you are not a citizen of Ghana. You cannot contest for elections I mean, you cannot be a member of parliament unless you're a citizen of Ghana. I mean, so I'm waiting to see how the Supreme Court came to its conclusion in the reasoning. But I'm one of those who thought that we should be moving towards this position that the determination of citizenship should be at the point of swearing in of that person as a member of parliament.
No, I don't know if you are ready for a question like this, because maybe you not have done the content analysis of both cases. But is this case remarkably different from the Adamu Sakandi case?
Yeah, in the case of Adamu Dramani, he never revoked his British citizenship. He never did. And up to the point when he was sworn in as a member of parliament, he did not revoke his British nationality. And there was abundant evidence that he never revoked his British nationality. I don't know if, even if at the point of imprisonment, he had revoked his British nationality. There was no evidence to that effect. In this case, Quayson had revoked his Canadian nationality, had brought documents to the Electoral Commission to demonstrate that he had initiated the process, but because of COVID and other things, the Canadian High Commission or Canadian government had not yet officially communicated the revocation to him. And the Electoral Commission itself, I believe, from the records and from what I hear, then allowed him to file his nomination. But subsequently, after the filing of nominations, the revocation documents came. So I believe that the records will show that at the point of even the election, I think his revocation documents had arrived. At the point of being sworn in, the revocation documents had arrived. So that is why many of us think that the court should be looking at this case with a completely different lens.
Let's look at the ramifications or the consequences of the directive by the Supreme Court saying to Parliament that expunge his name from the list of MPs, pretend as if he was not even elected on December 7, 2020, regardless of everything that would have been happening over the period. What are the practicalities of this particular directive? It means that that seat was never even occupied in the first place. It means that the NDC, as of the day you guys were sworn in, had 136 members of parliament. It also would mean that the number of MPs who voted for Abansumana Kingsford Bagbin and the number of MPs who voted for the Honorable Professor Mike Ironokwe, those numbers would also have been affected. Am I stretching this matter to absurd levels, or these are things that can be considered? And again, even the issue of if he was paid salary for the past 2 years, what happens to the salary and all of those things?
Well, I mean, that really is an absurd position, because if you look at the Constitution itself, it talks about unqualified persons sitting or voting, and says that Article 105, a person who sits or votes in Parliament knowing or having reasonable grounds for knowing that he is not entitled to do so commits an offence and shall be liable on conviction to such a penalty as shall be prescribed by or under the Act of Parliament. But then there are other provisions that talks about the fact that an unqualified person participated in voting does not annul the decision that has been taken by Parliament. So I can assure you that the decision of the court will not in any way affect decisions that have already been taken by Parliament. So I don't think that there's any ground for anyone to be worried about the implications for decisions that have already been taken. I would check through the provisions, and you will find the provisions that talk about the fact that the participation of somebody who is not qualified to vote in voting does not in any way negate the outcome of the decision of Parliament.
Very well. Thank you so much. I think we can leave it here. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
That's the Honorable Mahama Ayariga. He is MP for Bawku Central.